Welcome, dear listeners, to the Lone Star Diner, an ordinary place with an extraordinary tale. Nestled in the heart of the city, the Lone Star Diner is a beacon of comfort for the weary and the hungry. It's a place where truckers, late-night wanderers, and star-crossed lovers gather under the dim light of the neon sign, seeking solace in cups of coffee and plates of home-cooked meals. But the Lone Star Diner is more than just a 24-hour sanctuary for the famished and the lost. It's a place of peculiarities, a world governed by a set of rules as unusual as they are strict, dictated by none other than our iron-willed boss, Melanie. Melanie, with her silver-streaked hair and eyes as sharp as a hawk's, runs the diner with an efficiency that's both admirable and slightly terrifying. She pays us well, $50 an hour, a fortune in the world of waitressing and cooking. But this handsome pay comes with a price paid in obedience to Melanie's peculiar set of rules. Among these rules, one stands out as the most curious, the most enigmatic. It pertains to a certain customer, a spectral presence that graces our diner once every month like clockwork. This customer, veiled in an air of mystery, is someone none of us are allowed to serve. Not a word is to be exchanged, not a dish to be offered, nothing but the silent acknowledgement of their presence. This rule, as strange as it may sound, is one we've adhered to without question. Melanie's stern gaze and the hefty hourly wage ensure we stick to the rules, no matter how bizarre. But as the days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the curiosity gnaws at our minds, the mystery deepens, the intrigue grows, and the diner, our diner, becomes a stage for a tale as fascinating as it is eerie. The question remained, who was this mysterious customer that we were forbidden to serve? The clock struck midnight, and as if on cue, he walked in. The customer we were not allowed to serve. His appearance was as enigmatic as his presence. A man of average height, always cloaked in a dark trench coat, his face hidden beneath the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. His shoes echoed ominously against the linoleum floor, a chilling reminder of his punctuality that was as precise as a Swiss watch. Every month, on the dot, he would arrive. He'd take the same corner booth, sit with his back against the wall, and remain silent. His routine was as rigid as it was mysterious. Without ordering, without speaking, he would just sit there, his gaze fixed on something only he could see, his fingers drumming an unknown rhythm on the wooden table. The diner's atmosphere would always change when he was there. The usual chatter would slowly fade into hushed whispers. The clatter of dishes would seem louder, and the air would grow heavy with unspoken questions, yet none of us dared to break the silence to disturb his solitude. His presence was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, disrupting the peaceful monotony of our late-night shifts. His aura was unsettling, like a puzzle that refused to be solved, a mystery that resisted being unraveled. The curiosity was palpable, a shared secret among the staff. Who was he? Why was he here, and why were we forbidden to serve him? The questions swirled around in our minds, yet we never dared to voice them out loud. The rule was clear. Melanie was strict about it. We were not to interact with him, not to approach him. He was our ghostly patron, a spectre that haunted our curiosity but was forever out of reach. Despite the burning curiosity, we all kept our distance. After all, rules were rules. One fateful night, Melanie fell ill and the responsibility of the diner fell onto us. Suddenly, the Lone Star Diner was under our control. A strange sense of power, mixed with a creeping sense of dread, began to seep into our bones. The rules Melanie had enforced so strictly now seemed more like an ominous warning, and the idea of handling the mysterious customer's visit filled us with a chilling apprehension. As the evening wore on, the diner's usually lively atmosphere was replaced with an eerie silence. The clinking of dishes and the low hum of conversation were replaced by the deafening tick-tock of the clock on the wall. Each passing second brought us closer to the customer's expected arrival, and the tension could be cut with a knife. We found ourselves casting anxious glances towards the entrance, half expecting the mysterious customer to walk through the door at any moment. We knew nothing about him, except that he was forbidden, an off-limits entity in our otherwise mundane world. The idea of interacting with him, of breaking the rule that Melanie had so stringently enforced, was both thrilling and terrifying. As the hours ticked by, our nerves were stretched to breaking point. The diner's usual nighttime calm was replaced by a sense of impending doom. We were on the edge of our seats, waiting for an event we had no control over and barely understood. The normal sounds of the diner took on a sinister quality. The hiss of the coffee machine, the clatter of cutlery, the murmur of the radio all seemed to be waiting in anticipation. It was as if the diner itself was holding its breath, waiting for the arrival of the mysterious customer. And then, the moment we had all been dreading arrived. The clock struck 12, the witching hour, the time when the veil between our world and the next is at its thinnest, the time when the forbidden customer was due to visit. We stared at the clock, our hearts pounding in our chests as the seconds ticked away. The diner was silent, the air heavy with anticipation. As the clock neared midnight, we could only wonder what would happen when he arrived this time. Midnight arrived, and with it came our mysterious customer, only this time things were different. As the clock struck 12, the chill of anticipation swept through the Lone Star Diner. The air seemed to thicken, bearing down on us, and the usual hum of the diner softened to a deafening silence. The customer, as inscrutable as ever, slid into his usual booth, his presence a quiet storm stirring unease amongst us. The tension was palpable, a taut thread threatening to snap at any moment. Despite Melanie's absence, we adhered to her rule, our curiosity now mixed with a sense of dread. Who was this figure of mystery, and why were we forbidden to serve him? The questions hung heavily in the air, unanswered yet echoing in our minds. As the night wore on, the unexpected occurred. A new waiter, unaware of Melanie's rule, approached the customer. We watched, breaths held as he served the man. What happened next shook us to our very core. The diner's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room. The man's face, previously concealed by the dim lighting, was revealed. His eyes, they were not of this world. They held a darkness so profound, it was like staring into an abyss. His visage, once human, twisted into something grotesque, something that defied the laws of nature. The waiter froze, color draining from his face. The rest of us could only watch in paralyzed horror. The man, or whatever he was, devoured his meal with an inhuman hunger, his gaze never leaving the terrified waiter. Once done, he rose, his form looming ominously, and with a nod he exited, leaving behind an atmosphere of terror and disbelief. In the end, we understood why Melanie had set that strange rule, a rule that kept us safe from a terror we could never have imagined.